Wichita, Kansas, a city in the heart of North America, is best known as the air capital of the world. But did you know it is also home to a pioneering organization that has changed thousands of lives by providing amazing services to children with special needs and their families? It was right in Wichita, Kansas, where the Institute of Logopedics was born. It started with a vision. At the age of 5, Martin Palmer was told he had a hereditary eye condition that would cause him to go blind by the age of 40. Although the doctor's prediction was not correct, Martin never forgot the feeling of being told he was not physically normal.
It was while he was at the University of Michigan studying that Martin Palmer found his passion for speech pathology while working under Dr. John H. Meiskens. In 1934, Dr. Palmer was able to convince Dr. William Jardine, the president of the University of Wichita, to create the first ever separate department of logopedics.
With Dr. William Jardine's blessing, Dr. Martin Palmer laid the foundation in a fourth-floor classroom at the University of Wichita for the Institute of Logopedics, now Heartspring.
The clinic on the fourth floor of Jardine Hall, which at that point had no elevator. He started with clients who had cerebral palsy and other kinds of significant disabilities. And to get them up to the fourth floor, he hired ROTC students and football players to be the kind of the up and downers.
When he started the speech sciences department at the university, Dr. Palmer's vision manifested into a promising future, a future of hope, opportunities, and purpose for those impacted by disabilities. Little did he know, 85 years later, his vision would have transformed thousands of lives across the nation and around the world.
So he was in that facility for a while, and then he was given space in what was the KMUW building, kind of at the corner of 17th and Fairmount on campus.
In just 8 years, the Institute had served almost 3,500 children, all this through speech and hearing rehabilitation services, and had received nationwide attention from philanthropic groups, newspapers, and health organizations. Dr. Palmer's approach to treating communication disorders were unique and innovative. Instead of focusing on children's disability, he developed programs to focus on each child's strengths to help him overcome deficits.
It takes a whole host of experts working around a child to produce the gains that we're trying to describe to you.
For example?
And we've arranged for a group of the staff to come together around a youngster so we can see them. Each child is tested and worked out as he comes in to see two things. What is the reason he's not performing well? What can't he do?
What can't he do?
Yeah, and then next, what can he do? Because as we start our rehabilitation, we want to start from the things he can do well and begin to move into the things he can't do well to build those up.
That vision then turned into a threefold mission: to help children overcome disabilities, train professionals and teachers to adapt their service to those with disabilities, and devoting time and resources to research.
By 1949, we relocated to North Wichita. We were able to build 40 cottages and serve 400 students on 40 acres.
In many ways, the success of the Institute's new campus attests to the beautiful, kind, giving spirit of the community that fostered its growth. Its construction would not have been possible without the generosity of Willard W. Garvey of Builders, Inc., who donated more than $66,000 in contractor work fees, and architect George Metz, who donated his fee.
He met with a farmer to buy this land from him where the logopedics is. They didn't have anything to write on for an agreement to make a contract. All they had was, I guess, a cigarette package that the farmer had.
The campus signified a culture of giving. By 1950, the Institute had helped thousands of lives and helped reshape the public perception of disabilities.
These children have a right to be thought of not as some queer, obscure, peculiar condition, but as humans with human dignity.
The Institute of Logopedics revolutionized the world. After the Institute's new campus opened its doors to the world, Dr. Palmer's vision rapidly started growing and attracting philanthropic groups around the country. 3 of its biggest philanthropic groups emerged to support the institution in the 1940s. Sigma Alpha Sorority, Epsilon Sigma Alpha, and Alpha Iota. Over the years, Sigma Alpha has donated to capital projects such as the construction of the Interfaith Chapel and Camp Logos.
We knew it was going to be used for more than just a faith chapel. It would be for performances. It was something that the school needed, and we felt very good about being able to provide the funds for it.
Epsilon Sigma Alpha donated scholarships for employees, technology projects, and leisure events for students. And Alpha Iota started the Operation Green Thumb project, which allowed students to develop vocational training through a greenhouse program, and to the Adopt a House program. To this day, all 3 sororities continue their commitment to developing the mission Dr. Palmer founded. The Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Barbershop Quartet Singing in America, better known as the Barbershoppers, recognized the Institute of Logopedics in its International Service Project, adopting the slogan,
"We sing that they shall speak" was their theme. We were their national charity.
We sing that they shall speak.
They had so much fun. There was, a lot of them were serious singers. They're all serious, but some were comedic too, entertainers. They were just great.
Over the years, the Barbershoppers donated more than $5 million to the Institute. By 1954, the Institute had served thousands of individuals from 48 states and 20 countries. And Dr. Palmer's visionary endeavors received worldwide attention from celebrities, politicians, and health organizations. The Institute's recognition and reputation grew far and wide.
During the 1950s and 60s, celebrities like Bob Hope, Debbie Reynolds, and Gene Autry came to learn about the Institute, but then also perform for our children.
This era marked the start of countless visits by celebrities and politicians, including John F. Kennedy and Eleanor Roosevelt, who visited the Institute as a way to show their support and commitment to helping advance Dr. Palmer's vision. From this 40-acre campus in Wichita, Kansas, Dr. Palmer cast a light so bright and powerful, the world lit with hope and cried for help. And Dr. Palmer listened. Sponsored by the World Health Organization, he traveled to Japan in 1960 to help organizations acquire optimized speech and hearing rehabilitation services. 3 years later, after a visit by the Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi, the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare sent Dr. Palmer to India to share his expertise and help children receive the services they deserve. Through its deep connection with its roots, the Institute cultivated a strong identity with its community. And the more its roots expanded, the higher its impact reached, until tragedy hit. In 1965, Dr. Palmer passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. This sudden loss affected the thousands of lives he touched. A once hopeful community was overcome by sadness and uncertainty. Sadness for the loss of a pioneer, and uncertainty for the future of the Institute. As the Institute mourned Dr. Palmer's death, an eerie darkness took over. 10 years marked by discouragement, despair, and decay.
I got on the board just when the difficult time of how to succeed Dr. Palmer and how to manage the Institute without him. He also was a pretty good money raiser and had good connections in the community, and so he kept the finances going. But the truth is they were fragile, but the staff didn't understand that or appreciate it because it never bothered them. He took care of it.
Without Dr. Palmer, the Institute lost direction and it slowly began to fall apart. This crisis, later known as the risk years, was a remarkably hard time for the organization.
We had 3 different directors and none were really able to manage the situation. By now, we were 8 or 9 or 10 years into this hiatus and really struggling.
Despite the hardship, the Institute stood on the shoulders of community giants who fought for it to survive, its Board of Trustees. Out of the crisis came a renewed optimism when the board met Dr. Frank Kleffner, former president of the Institute of Speech and Hearing Association and director of the Central Institute for the Deaf. Dr. Kleffner served as an advisor to the board during those risk years.
Frank had known Dr. Palmer through the American Speech and Hearing Association, had been at many meetings with him. He had been here for certifications, so he knew the school and what it offered.
A fellow board member who followed me as chairman, Emil Ablaw, at one of our meetings, Emil said, "We don't want Frank Kleffner just to try to find us somebody. We want Frank Kleffner."
In 1976, he became the 5th director of the Institute.
We didn't really have a desire to leave St. Louis. I always tell Emil he's the reason we're here.
Despite his vast clinical knowledge and expertise, Dr. Kleffner, though, lacked the business acumen employees had come to expect.
He said, "I was not the administrator and I was not the fundraiser. You're going to have to give me a lot of help." And we agreed to meet once a week in his office in the mornings. He'd have coffee and donuts. Others were involved. Frank Carney of the Pizza Hut founding was very much involved, and Nestor Wygand of the real estate family.
Frank was not only an innovator, but he wasn't afraid of anything. So he'd be willing to present something regardless of what the slings and arrows of the outraged misfortune would say. He would just come with whatever it was.
Little by little, the darkness dimmed, light began to shine, and the Institute began to rise from the ashes. Under Dr. Kleffner, a new era began in which the Institute became internationally recognized for its research, and the organization became a mecca for innovation and advancement for children with special needs. In 1981, Dr. Kleffner launched a massive capital campaign to remodel the parts of the campus that had fallen into disrepair and expand into new programming. Co-chaired by Charles Koch and Frank Carney, the campaign hoped to raise $3 million for major renovations, facility improvements, and a scholarship endowment. With community support, the Institute surpassed its goal. Dr. Kleffner helped turn despair into hope, and for his efforts, he received the Honors Award from the American Association of Speech and Hearing, the highest award given to members for their contribution to the profession. The Kleffner years ended on a high note. In 1988, the Institute celebrated its 50th anniversary, its golden anniversary, to celebrate the impact of Dr. Palmer's dream. After more than a decade of service and dedication to advancing the mission of the Institute, Dr. Frank Kleffner retired from Heartspring. And in 1991, Dr. Jack Andrews began his 11-year commitment as president and CEO of the Institute. With this new leadership came a change and a new beginning. As an audiologist himself, Dr. Andrews continued the legacy of a worldwide presence with a trip to Burma, now Myanmar, providing audiological training and equipment.
We
went in 1995. Local entrepreneurs, Jack and Marilyn DeBoer, came and asked us if we would go over and work with World Vision and go to Mary Chapman School for the Deaf. When we got there, we tested all of the kids in the school. Oh, they were thrilled.
While Dr. Palmer's dream focused on speech and language deficits, the Institute now provided services well beyond that of Dr. Palmer's original vision. After 60 years, Andrews and the Board of Trustees decided it was time the Institute of Logopedics changed its name to better reflect the growing number of services provided.
The organization was going into other parts of the country and trying to recruit more students or more children to serve. When they talked with parents, parents said, "I don't want my child institutionalized." The name Institute of Logopedics, which used to be such a positive, began to become a negative.
Through a partnership with Armstrong Shank, now Armstrong Chamberlain, the name Heartspring was chosen. The heart representing the basis of love and life, and spring representing a new season, a new life.
We looked at many combinations of names. Sometime shortly after the focus groups were completed, that I believe Jack Andrews said, "Let's put these two together and this will become the name."
It took a while to make it happen or feel good about it, but yeah, it was a great change.
You change names when you get married. It's not what's in a name, it's what's up under the name.
Soon after the name change, Dr. Andrews surveyed more than 7,000 donors, supporters, employees, and trustees, and an additional need became clear. Heartspring had outgrown the campus across from Wichita State University, and it was time for a new campus where the organization could continue expanding and growing.
We were just getting by until a decision could be made, and then the decision was made. We're going to build a new one, just bubble gum and baling wire and a hope and a prayer, keep it running until we can get out of there.
You see, at its current location, Heartsprings is facing challenges and obstacles that have become insurmountable. Problems like neighborhood crime, the deterioration of the physical campus, and outdated buildings and facilities. Because Heartspring is helping children with increasingly complex disabilities, it needs buildings that are accessible for children with special needs. It just doesn't make sense to have these children attend class in one area of the campus, walk to the basement of this building for lunch, and then climb long flights of stairs to reach the physical therapy rooms on the 3rd floor.
You would have had to make so much stuff handicap accessible that start over was the better bet.
Heartspring launched a $12 million capital campaign to build a state-of-the-art campus.
As they started construction, various times we would come out in groups to see the new building and the construction, and it kind of helped us make the change.
I was one of the ones that closed the door at the old campus. Myself and a few of us, we had a ceremony and we all wore black and we closed the doors.
They tore down the first 2 courts on each side for the Cessna Training Center before we even left. A year or 2 after we left, I heard they were starting to tear down the empty apartments. And I went back and got a couple bricks that were cemented together, and they're my doorstop at home, my little memento of the place.
With a celebration in the spring of 1998, Heartspring opened its new home, a beautiful 38-acre campus in northeast Wichita where it still resides today.
Everything was new. It was just getting used to a new facility that you don't have to work so hard on.
With the turn of the century, the new campus brought an abundance of exciting change and new beginnings for Heartspring. For starters, the Growing Place, now Heartspring's Pediatric Services Department, was established to offer the life-changing outpatient therapies it provides today. With Dr. Andrews' retirement, Gary Singleton began a 13-year career as president and CEO in 2002. And with Dr. Andrews' completion of the new campus, Singleton expanded programming and spearheaded a focus on long-term financial stability.
World Reach really got back to going under Gary Singleton, and we ended up developing a partnership with Stars and Rain School in Beijing, China, and really got very active with their program. And so we've sent a lot of people there. They've come here several times.
Under Singleton's leadership, the organization also created fundraising opportunities through community events like Lights on the Lake and Pedal Fest. Lights on the Lake received incredible support from the community, but sadly, it came to an end.
Unfortunately, a storm came through Wichita and took out over half of the lights, and out of that was born Light Your Heart in 2015. A little piece of Lights on the Lake still exists. Some of the lights that were salvaged through that storm, they were donated to the city of Wichita and also to the Arc of Sedgwick County. So as you drive through there, you will get to see the Lights on the Lake installment that was once on our campus.
With the national awareness on the rise of autism diagnosis, Singleton saw a need for more research and innovation to better meet the needs of children with autism and their families. Heartspring began its Community of Autism Resources and Education Initiative, commonly known as the CARE program, in 2007 by hosting its first Autism Care Walk, an event designed to raise awareness of autism in the Wichita community and collect funds to support the CARE program, which offers social and summer programming for children with autism. In 2015, Gary retired from Heartspring. His tenure saw incredible growth in programming and the assurance of long-term financial stability. Under new leadership, Heartspring kicked off a capital campaign project to renovate and expand spaces in order to serve more children.
The Expanding Possibilities Campus Expansion Campaign really came out of a necessity to increase Heartspring's capacity to serve more children with special needs in the Wichita and surrounding communities. The campaign allowed us to renovate existing structures as well as add new buildings onto our campus.
Today, the mission continues as strong as ever. From a simple but powerful vision to a strong and ever-growing mission, Heartspring continues to change lives today through innovation and community services.
It really is being part of a legacy. It's something special, it's magical, and I hope that it continues on for another 85 years.
The history of Heartspring signifies a passion for creating a more inclusive world for every human being on earth. A passion that has become an extraordinary legacy. A legacy of change. A legacy of opportunities. A legacy of giving. A legacy of hope.